Hey everyone, today we're going to disassemble, clean, and reassemble this Ruger Mark IV target pistol. For a lot of people, I have found that this is the first semi-automatic pistol that they purchase. We're going to make sure that this pistol is unloaded, and we'll find with the 4th edition of this pistol is very easy to take down and clean. Let's get started. So first we're going to make sure the pistol is unloaded. If the magazine is in the pistol and the magazine is empty, when we pull back on the bolt, it will lock in the open position. On the other side of the pistol, we can see the magazine latch, which we can depress to drop the magazine. And the magazine is empty, as we can see. There's no ammunition. With a clear view into the chamber and bore, we could see there's no ammunition in there. I could also see the light of day down through the frame. Turning the pistol around in the other direction, I could pull back on the bolt while pushing down on the bolt stop, releasing the bolt, and this pistol is now cleared and safe. I may instead elect to drop the magazine first by pressing the magazine release latch, confirming the magazine empty and putting it off to the side. When I pull the bolt back, it will not lock by itself without the magazine, but I can pull the bolt back and hold it open to conduct the same exact inspection that I did previously. Or if I choose, push up on the bolt stop latch to lock the bolt in the open position during this inspection. Either way, the goal is the same, and that's to ensure the gun is unloaded before continuing with the disassembly and cleaning, and this gun is unloaded. If it's not set to safe right now, it should be set to safe so we could see the white S. We're going to be pushing this switch in the rear, which will allow the entire barrel receiver assembly to pivot upwards, as you see. And once it pivots to a certain point, it will stop, allowing this to completely separate from the frame into two parts. Drawing our attention to the barrel receiver assembly, we slide the bolt right out of the rear of the unit. Drawing our attention to the bolt, we use a small drift to gently push back on the spring tension of this guide rod assembly to release it from the bolt and put it off to the side. And that's the full breakdown for general cleaning. I'll be using my standard pistol cleaning kit with 22 caliber attachments, along with my nylon brush, Q-tips, patches, FP10 Gun Oil, and Hoppe's No. 9 solvent. I've assembled the 22 caliber bore brush, and I added a little bit of solvent to it, and I'm going to swab the bore a couple of times. Especially important if not using jacketed ammunition to remove the possibility of any lead fouling. And once I do this a couple of times, and I'm taking my time, not trying to move fast because there is a lot of resistance until you get to the end. You don't want to go and throw and drop something. And once this is done, I am going to let it sit for a couple of minutes, walk away, and do something else. But a couple of swabs with the bore brush is really all that it takes. I'm now using a patch that I've dipped in solvent, cutting that patch to accommodate 22 caliber. If it's too wide, it's just going to get stuck in the bore. So keep that in mind. And I'm going to go through a couple of times and swab the bore. We can see all of those deposits coming off. And then I'm going to let it sit, eventually cutting dry patches and going through the bore as many times as I feel necessary until the patches come out clean. The patch should be cut thin enough as to not get stuck in the bore, and thick enough that you should feel just a slight resistance that you know the bore is being properly swabbed. And here's what's been collected from dirty to clean. For a 22, I do recommend a bore snake, however, and this makes cleaning a lot easier. Pick these up on Amazon relatively cheap. Just make sure if you have a bore snake that you check the end. It should be stamped with 22 at the end. From the breech or rear side of the barrel, the weight of the end allows it to fall into the bore, giving it slack until that brass piece comes out the other side. Then the entire length of it is pulled through. Once you get to the thicker portion and the portion where there are some spikes for cleaning, you'll feel some resistance, but eventually all of it will be pulled through and it cleans the bore extremely effectively. We could see everything is nice and clean in one pull, maybe two pulls, and that's it. Now the barrel receiver assembly will be cleaned using a patch. We can get into these places to the extent that you could fit your fingers. You may find that it might become difficult to get into a lot of these areas though we could see a lot of dirt coming up out of the corners of these areas. However, using the nylon brush in conjunction with the patch will allow the patch to get into these areas. I've added solvent to that patch to help clean up the areas that I'm working on, and the patch is definitely picking up a lot of dirt. Once cleaned with the patch with solvent, a dry patch will be used in the same process. Once I get to the point where I can no longer reach with my fingers, I can use the brush to get into those areas and the corners to ensure that all the dirt has been removed. As I inspect the areas once they're dried and cleaned with the dry patch to ensure further cleaning is not required. Sometimes the brush is needed to get some fine points, as we see here. The clean patch is used to inspect and clean until no further dirt is found on this piece. A final visual inspection is then conducted. This process will be repeated until the cleaning is satisfactory. Right at the end of the inspection, dirt was found on the end of the muzzle, but that was it. A small amount of oil is then applied to a clean patch. The bore is then swabbed several times to ensure that it is coated with a light amount of oil to protect it. That patch is then used to very lightly coat every square inch of the barrel receiver assembly, just to put a very light silhouette of oil on everything. It is not to lubricate it, just to make it shine very slightly and protect the metal. Making our way to the bolt now, a patch with solvent is used to clean up all the areas of the bolt and remove any debris. Once again, as before, areas become hard to reach, so we reach for the nylon brush, which we use to make them more accessible and have more effective cleaning. Areas with these kind of contours especially benefit from the brush-patch combination. Careful detail here at the firing pin and extractor. We see the extractor is spring-loaded and pivots outward where we could clean under and around it. Quite a bit was removed. We can now move on to the clean patch, which will now clean up and remove all the solvent and debris. With a final inspection, this piece is now completed. Turning our attention to the guide rod assembly, first I will clean it with a brush to remove any debris from the spring, then with the patch and a light amount of solvent to remove all the residue and dirt we see here at the end. The other side will be cleaned as well, and the overall piece will finally be inspected and put off to the side. The frame begins with a brushing to remove any loose dirt that may have collected up top, followed by a patch with a small amount of solvent going over all of these areas to see where dirt might have collected, paying close attention to those areas to ensure that they're cleaned, and then following all those areas up with a clean patch. After which the frame will be inspected. This one looks good. We'll move on. A small amount of oil is applied to these 2 points. One of them is over here by the trigger, and the other one is over here. Put it on both sides here, and then remove any excess with a patch from both areas. I don't want a lot of oil here, just a little. That patch with the oil residue will now be used to wipe down this entire frame to protect it. A small amount of oil applied right here onto the bolt will be distributed, and then the rest will be applied to the whole bolt in order to protect the metal, especially here on the sides. I want the whole thing covered in a nice silhouette of oil, but I do not want it over-oiled. The guide rod assembly is lined up over the bolt, and with a little bit of compression, snaps right back into place just like this. And with that, our bolt is completed. Holding the barrel receiver assembly with the opening in this direction, we hold the bolt with the extractor also in this direction. We can slide the bolt right back into the receiver assembly just like that. Taking both our barrel receiver assembly and our frame, we can see how it hooks into the frame right over here. So we hook it in on an angle. We line up the bolt stop cross pin to the hole in the receiver assembly. Once lined up, we depress the latch button all the way in and push the piece all the way down till fully seated and let go of the latch button. The pistol is now fully assembled. Take a moment with a clean patch to go over the magazine. Make sure that it's not dirty. Remove any residue that may be on here and give it a visual inspection. Insert the empty magazine into the pistol. Deflect the safety on and off. Make sure that it's working properly and not binding. We'll test it mechanically. Pulling back on the bolt, it should stay in the locked back position. I release the bolt forward with the bolt stop. And as the safety is off, I should hear a click when I pull the trigger. I pull the bolt back again and this time switch it on to safety. Release the bolt back forward and pull the trigger and nothing happens. The safety is working correctly. Back to hot. Heard a click. Everything seems mechanically sound. Tested at the range. Finally, a little bit of oil on one of the patches, and I'm just going to go over the entire pistol, make sure everything's coated with a thin sheen, a thin silhouette of oil, just to protect the metal, and that'll be it. And here's what we've pulled out from the Ruger. And that concludes this video on the disassembly, cleaning, inspection, and reassembly of this Ruger Mark IV. I hope you found this video enjoyable, entertaining, and informative. Do me a favor, hit that like button down below. Helps me out a lot when you do. And hit that subscribe button for more videos like this when they come out. Again, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching. Would you like to reply?